42-year-old Halyna Hutchins was a cinematographer on the rise. She was making a movie with Alec Baldwin in the middle of a New Mexico ghost town. On October 21, 2021, they were rehearsing inside an old church when something went terribly wrong. It wasn't clear what exactly had happened at first. Baldwin was practicing drawing his weapon when there was a deafening noise. 2 of the 3 crew members behind the camera dropped to the ground. A live round, a real projectile, had been fired from Alec's gun, and director Joel Sousa was hit in the shoulder. Halyna, unfortunately, was struck in a much more lethal place. Despite a helicopter rushing her to the University of New Mexico hospital, she was pronounced dead on arrival. But what actually happened? And who was responsible? The film, a Western called Rust, was now on hold indefinitely as the investigation began. It appeared that a deadly chain of safety failures led to the senseless loss. There appeared to be no straightforward answer initially, but more details have since come into focus. The lives of everyone on set that deadly day have been irreversibly changed. But who's to blame? There's so much finger-pointing here, it's gone circular and come back around a few times. And this is absolutely criminal. Halyna Hutchins was born on April 10, 1979, in a small village in northern Ukraine. She lived in Los Angeles and graduated from the American Film Institute in 2015. After just 4 years in 2019, she was recognized as a rising star by American Cinematographer magazine. Although the production got off to a rocky start, which we will tell you about shortly, Halyna appeared thrilled and enthusiastic. She posted Instagram pictures of herself on set, relishing the horseback riding available on her days off. She undoubtedly had a future brighter than the New Mexican sun. Regrettably, she would never see another beautiful desert sunrise. She was struck down while performing her passion. It's clear, as far as we know, that nobody in the fateful chapel could have predicted what was going to happen that day. No single person was wholly responsible, yet the actions of a small group would converge to determine her destiny. Alec Baldwin likely needs no introduction, and he has long been a polarizing figure in Hollywood, from the time he left a voicemail for his then 11-year-old daughter, calling her a rude, thoughtless little pig.
You have humiliated me for the last time, and when I come out there next week, I'm going to fly out there for the day. Just to straighten you out.
To pleading guilty in 2019 and attending anger management, following an altercation over a parking space. But, love him or hate him, Alec has had a successful decades-long career, but has it all come to an end with one pull of a trigger? Baldwin has claimed many times he didn't pull the trigger. Alec Baldwin has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing and has not been charged with any crime. But some think the walls are closing in, and he may be held responsible in some way. Alec was clearly distraught after the shooting, and we can't imagine the amount of guilt he must feel for being part of a chain of events that led to Halyna's death. One of the other main figures in this tragic tale is Hannah Gutierrez-Reed. This picture of her did not age well, to say the least. She would lament the fate of her career immediately after the accident, as heard in this police video.
What's your job there with them?
I'm the armor, or at least I was. Just want to get the fuck out of here and never show my face in this industry ever again. Well, I wouldn't say that. I'm like the only female armorer in the game, and I just fucked up my whole entire career.
Hannah was a rookie armorer or weapons master. Her job was to acquire, inspect, instruct, and supply prop guns to the actors. She had many responsibilities, but perhaps her most important job was ensuring the safety of actors and crew by acting as the last line of defense in a weapons chain of custody. Whatever her role in the incident, Hannah was clearly surprised and couldn't imagine how it could have happened. The 24-year-old is the daughter of renowned and respected armorer Taylor Reed. She undoubtedly made Papa proud in her choice of profession, but ultimately she would never live up to her dad's sterling reputation in the film industry. But there is another side to Hannah's story. She was performing double duty, also acting as the prop master. That would involve storing, transporting, and prepping each prop for the day every day. This was not ideal, to put it mildly, but we are all being asked to do more with less these days. Was it just a sign of the times or gross mismanagement? In addition to all of that, there was one more sticky wicket for the weapon master. Despite usual protocols, she did not hand Mr. Baldwin the gun, merely placing it on a prop cart amid two other guns. Assistant Director Dave Halls retrieved the weapon from the cart and gave it to Alec. This move was inexplicable, according to armoring experts. Dave clearly believed that the gun was unloaded, but admitted later he didn't visually confirm this. He allegedly declared it a cold gun, meaning unloaded and safe, when he handed it over to the 30 Rock star. Alec Baldwin would go on to apparently break what is often described as the #1 rule of gun safety. Never point a gun at anything you're not prepared to shoot. The plane of that barrel should never have aligned with any human being, even when unloaded. But unknown to anyone, Alec's gun was loaded, and a bullet was about to cross paths with director Joel Sousa and Halyna Hutchins. Although he was as surprised as anyone at that moment, police say he definitely pulled the trigger. He would vehemently deny this, both at the time and numerous times hence. Director Dave Halls was the penultimate line of defense, and according to court documents, he failed by not properly inspecting the gun. As for why the armorer didn't personally supply the handgun to the actor, it was because of her double duties. This is not the first fatality involving a prop gun on a movie set. Arguably, the most famous accident occurred on March 31st, 1993, on the set of The Crow. Budding superstar Brandon Lee was killed during a scene when another actor fired a gun at him. Although the round fired was indeed a blank, an unseen projectile lodged in the barrel beforehand was ejected with enough force to knock Lee on his back. Because the scene called for him to fall forward, the director yelled, "Cut!" But Brandon Lee never got back up, and he died hours later. Unlike The Crow, fate took a different path to the same horrifying results during Rust. The barrel of Baldwin's gun was clear. What he didn't know, however, is that there was a live round ready to fire. At 6:30 the morning of October 21st, 7 disgruntled employees showed up for work, collected their belongings, and walked out on the job. Could it have been sabotage? A lawyer for the beleaguered armorer thought so. But first, who do you think bears the most responsibility in the shooting? Tell us in the comments below. Then head to the community tab and take the poll to find out what other viewers said. If you find us informative and entertaining, please hit thumbs up, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss an episode. For lots of crime and a slightly smaller package, check out AC Tidbits, our side channel with exciting stories in 10 minutes or less. Don't forget to stay after this episode for the first new show on that channel. If you're into full-length episodes, keep it right here. Back to our story. Rust was a joint venture by writer and director Joel Sousa and Alec Baldwin, the film's producer. Dave Halls was brought in as AD, and Hannah Gutierrez-Reed was hired as master of both props and weapons. It would prove to be too tall an order, as Baldwin's passion project began with plenty of baggage. Gutierrez-Reed was preceded by a reputation built on her first role as an armorer, a film called The Old Way. Crew members say she drove Nicolas Cage to storm off the set after she discharged a prop weapon without warning. Then there was Dave Halls, who is noted for allegedly ignoring safety issues, including blocked exits and an unexpected firearm discharge. One crew member actually said this about Halls back in 2019. That man is a liability. He is going to fucking kill someone someday. In the first week following the shooting, police served several search warrants. They revealed that they took over 600 pieces of evidence, including 500 rounds of ammunition. The ammunition came in various forms and contained a mixture of dummy rounds, blank rounds, and live rounds. Dummy rounds are emptied of their gunpowder and closed up again. These rounds will obviously not fire and are used in situations when the director needs a close-up of their actor loading realistic-looking ammo. Blanks are used in productions when the director wants a loud bang and a muzzle flash. Actors have to provide a recoil on their own, as blank rounds cause minimal pushback when they leave the barrel. Blanks are made by removing the bullet. Before clearing the weapon for use on set, steps must be taken to ensure there is no foreign object lodged in the barrel. Whether it's a bullet, a rock, or some other pending projectile, it will become a deadly missile when a blank round is fired. On October 29th, Halyna Gutierrez-Reed issued a statement published in Variety. After expressing her condolences to Halyna's family, she went on to say she was being slandered. In her statement, she said she has no idea where the live rounds came from. She denied being responsible for 2 previous accidental discharges on the set, blaming them on Baldwin's stunt double. Nobody was injured in those mishaps, but knowing what we do now, it doesn't appear safety measures were tightened as a result. The $7 million production went ahead as scheduled. That's a lot of money to you and me, but in Hollywood, it's practically a shoestring budget, and some corners presumably needed to be cut. So they just rounded the corners right off. According to some in the crew, they worked 10 to 13-hour days and occasionally longer. The producers were providing hotel rooms that were about an hour away from the set, despite closer options. Several in the crew also alleged they were not being paid on time, with checks received up to 3 weeks late. However, a letter endorsed by 24 crew members on the film refutes these claims. They said no production is perfect, and Rust was no exception. But the good outweighed the bad, they said, and the show was run professionally. As we mentioned earlier, there was a walkout on the morning of the shooting. Those involved claim after voicing their concerns, they were told to leave the set or police would be called. They did so and were quickly replaced with non-unionized crew members. This was cited by the armorer attorney as a motive for sabotaging the prop gun with a real live round. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, however, and the lawyer was lacking the latter. There is so far no proof of foul play. Although nothing would surprise us at this point in our simulation universe, that does seem a bit too far to go for revenge, in our opinion. Although the shooting may not have been part of a plot, it was likely the result of careless actions. A report by the state of New Mexico on April 21, 2022, stated there were numerous violations. It says Halyna Gutierrez-Reed was green, having worked only very limited time in her field. The document further says David Halls witnessed 2 prior unintended discharges, and he did nothing to improve safety. Then he was ultimately the one who handed Alec one of the 3 guns prepared by Halyna and declared the gun was cold, meaning it was unloaded and safe for the actor to handle. According to the New York Post, witnesses on the set denied hearing Halls call out cold gun, contradicting Baldwin's claim. Whatever the sequence, the events that day triggered a $137,000 fine against the production company. From the beginning, Alec Baldwin has repeatedly stated that he did not pull the trigger. That's what he told police in October of 2021, George Stephanopoulos later that December, and journeyman journalist Chris Cuomo in August of 2022. On August 13th, the FBI released their forensic report on the investigation. Throughout extensive testing, they determined that the gun could not be made to fire without a pull of the trigger. This doesn't sound like a huge revelation, but it directly contradicts Alec's claim that he did not pull it. That's not necessarily a lie, and his denial is convincing. Whether it was down to deception or misperception, the Bureau's documents left little doubt. The production of Rust was chaotic, to say the least. The flick was underfunded and the crew was overworked. Crew members did double duties and the execs doubled down on their do more with less approach. Disaster was sadly imminent in this maelstrom of mediocrity. Matt Hutchins, for one, blames his wife's death on Alec Baldwin. He ripped the actor in February of 2022 in an interview with Today. The 38-year-old widower was enraged when Alec said the following during his interview with George Stephanopoulos just 2 months after the tragedy. "Someone is responsible for what happened, and I can't say who that is, but it's not me." Hutchins slammed Baldwin for not accepting responsibility in this interview from February of 2022. The Hutchins family is suing him and Rust crew members, chiefly Hannah Gutierrez-Reed. Halyna Hutchins' legacy will live on, and part of the American Film Institute, where they've established a scholarship fund in her name. It's dedicated to supporting female cinematographers in their education. You can find a link to that charity in this video's description. As promised earlier, here is a brand new episode from our new side channel. If you're into compelling crime stories in 10 minutes or less, as you'll either be thrilled or devastated to find out. I'm the narrator over there, too. Here's our first offering about Taylor Schabusiness, an admitted necrophiliac who allegedly put her boyfriend's head in a bucket. If you enjoy, why not like and subscribe over there, too? Let the darkness come alive. A slamming door woke Tara Pakanich out of a deep sleep in the early hours of February 23, 2022. The sound was unusual enough that she got up to inspect her home. Tara knew that her adult son, Shad Theron, and his girlfriend, Taylor Schabusiness, had been holed up in the basement for the past 2 days. While she hadn't laid eyes on them in more than 24 hours, she had heard them cavorting and carrying on down there. But now it was forebodingly silent, and someone had left the porch light on. How annoying. She navigated the darkened house to her son's basement bedroom. No one was there, but something incongruous caught her eye. A bucket with a towel draped over it. Curious, Tara pulled back the towel and looked straight into her son's lifeless eyes. But there was more than just her son's head in that ghastly 5-gallon bucket of horror. This is Schabusiness before pleasure.
So Mom, Dad, Kevin, Carrie, Brendan.
I can't believe that you murdered him.
It would have been one of the last weekends.
Shad Theron, 24, lived a quiet life working for his father's family business while he stayed in his mother's basement. He had been dating an old high school friend on and off for some time, a 25-year-old woman named Taylor Schabusiness. She was married, but that didn't really matter to either one of them. Taylor lived in her own apartment with a roommate not far from Tara Pakanich's house. On February 21, 2022, she picked Shad up from his mother's house at around 9 p.m. to party with her and her roomie at their apartment. They smoked some pot, then some meth for good measure, and after the roommate left, the two had a nightcap of injected trazodone, an antidepressant often used for its sedating properties. Somehow, Schabusiness was able to drive her van back to Shad's basement dwelling later that night, and the two crashed there. According to Taylor, during her police interview, she and Shad were indulging in some BDSM sex on February 22, 2022. They used silver choker chains that Theron had purchased for the two of them. It was going swimmingly as Taylor dominated Shad during the drug-soaked sex games, but Schabusiness wanted to spice up the roleplay a little more this time. What would be more arousing than choking your lover with a chain? For Taylor, allegedly, it was choking him to death. Too bad for her, it was a trick she could only perform once. Schabusiness wasn't done after Theron's heart stopped, however. She stayed several hours with her boyfriend's body in Pekanich's basement. He was still warm, and so was she. But the drugs and necrophiliac urges seemed to wear off at the same time, and now she had a body to dispose of. Good thing she was a long-time #1 fan of Jeffrey Dahmer, because the late serial killer had been an ace at dismembering his dead lovers. She set about her grotesque work using whatever items she could find in that basement. One item was a bucket. Taylor was responsible for the slamming door that woke Tara out of REM sleep that morning. She had loaded Shad's body parts into her van using various boxes and containers from the Pekanich basement, but by her own account, she became lazy and sloppy as her drug cocktail wore off. She left the most important container behind in the basement, that godforsaken bucket with all her favorite pieces of shad. The 911 call from Tara Pekanich must have been shocking, but police didn't have to spend much time finding the murderer. Taylor found them. The police were outside her apartment searching her van when she stumbled upon the officers. If her blood-stained clothing at the time of her arrest wasn't incriminating enough, the human legs found in a crock-pot box in her van was a clincher. Schabusiness reportedly told the police everything during her interrogation, even admitting that seeing Shad choking and fighting for his life had been the ultimate turn-on. This particular tidbit was what got her the additional third-degree sexual assault charge. Taylor didn't spill the beans to ease her conscience, however. She had a plan. Time to roll out the insanity defense. Perhaps history would have been different if Taylor took her blood-covered Schabusiness to Walmart instead. According to one young shopper, nobody would have looked twice.
We were walking and we didn't want to look suspicious. We were already covered with blood, which looked suspicious, so we didn't run.
So Walmart, you filled up your water bottles and washed off the blood?
We considered the fact that we might be questioned why we were covered with blood, but then we decided it's Walmart. So
that's normal.
Huh? There are pictures of people that are pretty much naked. So nobody looks twice.
You can find out how that little girl and her friend came to be covered in crimson on our main channel, Absolutely Criminal. The 2-part episode blurs the line between fiction and reality, back when such a dividing line existed, anyway. If you're enjoying the show, please help us grow by hitting thumbs up, subscribe, and ring the notification bell for more twisted tidbits. Now let's get back to the Schabusiness at hand. On May 19th, Taylor told Brown County Judge Thomas Walsh that she considered herself incompetent to stand trial at her competency hearing.
I just need to simply ask you at this time whether you are asserting that you are competent to proceed or not competent to proceed.
Competent.
I'm sorry? Incompetent? Okay. Okay.
Well, we are inclined to agree. Actual experts had been hired to examine Schabusiness as she waited in jail for her competency hearing. During the 4-hour court session, 2 board-certified forensic psychiatrists outlined their findings from their interviews with the defendant. The state's forensic psychiatrist Deborah Collins had spent about 75 minutes with Schabusiness on April 4th. Dr. Collins revealed that the defendant's medical history included diagnosis of bipolar disorder, ADD, ADHD, and PTSD. Her substance abuse history included meth, cocaine, Xanax, acid, and alcohol. Dr. Collins concluded that Schabusiness was not suffering from psychosis and understood the court proceedings as well as the possible penalties if she is convicted. In other words, Schabusiness was competent to stand trial. On April 22nd, Dr. Tracy Lucetta, the expert for the defense, had conducted a 2-hour interview with Schabusiness. Contrary to the state's expert, Lucetta revealed that the defendant had thought she could receive the death penalty if convicted, not an option in Wisconsin. This expert also noted that the defendant had made delusional statements during the interview and often needed to be redirected to the questions. The defense attorney for Schabusiness argued that the defendant had not received mental health treatment during the weeks separating the two evaluations, but Judge Walsh didn't buy that, noting that these were findings of two different psychiatrists, and he deemed the defendant competent to stand trial. Later, in Taylor's June 2nd preliminary hearing, probable cause was found to proceed with the felony case against Taylor Schabusiness. Her arraignment hearing took place on July 5, 2022, in which she pled not guilty to the charges. Her court date for trial is set for October 19, 2022, and she is held on a $2 million cash bond. Well, we can't wait for October now, can we? Stay tuned to Absolutely Criminal for updates and dozens of full-length episodes. If you like shorter stories, subscribe to AC Tidbits for a quick criminal fix. Until next time.